Okay, so this one is our intro to decimals. So we're going to talk about converting fractions to decimals and then vice versa and converting decimals to fractions. So the only way to make fractions into decimals is to use long division, which most of you are going, oh, long division is the worst. Okay, but it's not going to be too painful, I promise. So let's just go over the basics of long division. So we use the division bar. The numerator goes inside the division bar. Outside the division bar goes the denominator. So the denominator stays outside, the numerator comes along inside. Okay? So now let's do some math. Does 2 go into 1? No, it doesn't go at all. It goes 0 times. So don't forget, or hopefully you remember, we put that point, and we can keep on adding zeros to the end, however many zeros we need. So now, instead of this being read as 1.0, it's really read as 10. So how many times does 2 go into 10? 2 goes 5 times into 10. Okay, when you put a decimal place here, it comes up and it gets put there. Okay, so let's practice another one then. I want you to do 3/4. Turn that into a decimal. So I want you to pause and try it on your own. So now that you've paused, hopefully your work looks like this. Goes 0 times, so we put a 0 there. Goes 7. Bring as many zeros down as you need. In this case, we needed 2 zeros. That's okay. Don't forget, if you put a point here, it goes straight up. So 3/4 is actually 0.75. Okay, so what do you think about this one? This one has a whole number. It's a mixed number fraction. So what we do with that is this whole number just comes out front. It's going to be point something. Okay, so it's 2 point something. So now we just have to worry about that 3/8, which now that's what we are going to divide out. So we're really doing 8 and 3 here. Okay, so finish the rest of this one, and I want you to figure out example 3. So pause the video and figure out so finish 2 and work on 3. Okay, so hopefully you got -2.375, that whole thing. And then for this one, it's kind of a trick, but not really. All you add is the 0.0 at the end. So not really a trick, but kind of a trick. All right, so let's move on to converting decimals to fractions. Okay, this is partially where we need to review some vocabulary, okay, before we can actually do it. So this decimal place, what's that decimal place? That's called the tenths place. The tenths place. So this is the tenths place. What about this one? What's that? 6. That's called the hundredths place. The hundredths place. Hundredths. The hundredths place. Okay. So now over here it says put over base 10, 100, or 1,000, or whatever. So what that means is, depending on what decimal place we have here, that's what number we're going to put it over. So since this goes to the hundredths place, we're going to put this decimal, or 36, over 100. Now that's our fraction, but we always want to simplify our fraction. So again, since our decimal ended in the hundredths place, we put whatever our decimal is, or 36, over 100. If it was the thousandths place, we put it over 1,000. Okay. Now we have to simplify. I know they both can be divided by 4. We get 9/25. Okay, so it's equal to 9/25. All right, I want you to do the next 3. Okay, so do example 4, example 5, and example 6. Work on those for me now. Try to get them in simplest form. So I want them in simplest form. Okay, so pause and work on those 3 for me. Okay, so first one can be simplified to -2/5 because this was the tenths place. This was the thousandths, which is why we put it over 1,000. If you don't know what to divide it by, always start with 2. Okay, and you could just keep on going. Always start with the basics if you're not sure. You should be able to get down to 117 over 500. Example 6 was a little tricky because we had that 5 out front, which we haven't really talked about, but it just becomes a mixed number. So it just becomes -5 1/10. Okay, let's look at example 7. It's got something above it. It's got that little repeating bar. So anytime you see a repeating bar, it changes the number a little bit. So what decimal place is this? This is the tenths, right? So normally we would put 3 over 10. But that's not equal to 0.3 repeated. Okay? It's actually, instead of a 10, anytime you see that repeating bar, you put it over 9. Over the 9. So over 9, or 99, or 999, or what have you. Okay, since it's the tenths place, it's really 3 over 9, which can be simplified by 3 to give us 1/3. Okay, so this repeating bar here tells us that we put it over 9. So I would make sure I write that in my notes. We put it over 9, not over 10. Okay. So looking at the next example here, it says order the rational numbers from least to greatest, right? So you're going to want to figure out the decimal or the fraction version. So fractions are kind of hard to tell what exactly order they should go in. So I would suggest anytime I ask you to order the rational numbers, always make them decimals. So always make decimals. Okay. So that way you can tell exactly what, all the way down to 100ths place or thousandths or whatever place. Okay, so make them all decimals and then make sure you order them from least to greatest. Okay. All right, so here's your order. Okay. So make sure you have work of what you changed these into decimal wise. All right. So now work on your homework and your activity.